Resident Evil 3 Remake comes so hot on the heels of the massively successful Resident Evil 2 that it was hard not to be a little skeptical of its quality before sitting down to play it. I'm happy to report, however, that not only does Resident Evil 3 feel as fresh and clever as its predecessor, it adds enough to potentially exceed it. Resident Evil 3 takes place just before and after the events of Resident Evil 2, and for what I played appears to very closely follow in the footsteps laid out by the 1999 original Resident Evil 3 Nemesis. Much like the RE2 remake, RE3 retraces these moments faithfully, but adds enough modern flair and, with the aid of hindsight and modern technology, reorganises events and adapts characters to draw the most out of the narrative. Carlos, for example, now feels more like an actual human being and not a Jill-leering, machine-gun-toting caricature.
I'm fine.
Personal space. Okay, I get it. Let's go.
In the few cutscenes I did experience, the story was well produced and far more engaging than the original, although Nikolai's Russian accent was definitely leaning a little too much on the cartoony side.
Can't pull the trigger when it counts.
Hey, take it easy.
Despite Raccoon City being in a state of chaos, something that immediately stood out to me was how vibrant and alive it felt. I was constantly stopping to take in the details, and it almost felt like every building was explorable and every item was interactable, and the returning explosive red barrels and electric boxes definitely were. Stopping to take in the scenery was often impossible though, and almost entirely misguided. Not only did I have to deal with what felt like nimbler and greater quantities of zombies than in RE2, but I also had to make my way through tighter, winding paths and a maze-like collection of vehicles and barricades. Somehow, the city felt huge and alive, but at the same time claustrophobic and I don't mean this in a negative way, a nightmare to navigate. But the biggest threat, by far, was the arrival of the main event himself, the mechanic that Resident Evil 3 hangs its hat on, Nemesis. Fans of the original will remember the rocket launcher-loving, stars-hunting pursuer, and his return in Resident Evil 3 Remake doesn't disappoint. I won't ruin what I imagine is one of his many surprise appearances, but it's safe to say that it's both equal parts terrifying and entertaining. If you thought the constant threat of Mr. X was a stressful experience, then Nemesis could be borderline panic attack inducing. Nemesis not only pursues and hunts you down while spouting his catchphrase, but has the ability to wield weapons, airdrop out of nowhere, and perhaps, most terrifyingly, sprint towards you at full pace like a rhino with a death wish. Nemesis is as stressful as you remember it being, but graphically and mechanically so much more intense and often feeling like there's no escape. I spent a good 20 minutes being chased by the giant freak, and no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't shake the beast off until I triggered the next story beat. So how do you stop an unstoppable monster? Simply put, you don't. Much like the original, Resident Evil 3 puts a greater emphasis on maneuverability, and this comes in the form of a quick step, a dodge button that lets you sidestep almost all incoming attacks. The original featured something similar, but simplified to a counter that only worked when timed just right. In the remake though, the quick step allows you at any point to make a sharp movement in any direction. Frankly, this move is your new best friend. It also has a timing element. By hitting R1 at the right time, the action slows down and increases the distance of your dodge, and once mastered, it's the ultimate avoidance tool. It's invaluable for not only sidestepping Nemesis, but weaving your way through the aforementioned Labyrinth of the Undead. The quickstep isn't the only tool available to assist in Jill's navigation. Now I don't have any footage to illustrate this, but it's worth mentioning that a slight but much welcome change from Resident Evil 2 is the ability to quickly pick up an item that you already have one of in your inventory. No longer interrupting your escape with menu screens, the game allows you to grab that precious herb while still maintaining your velocity. It's a small change, but one that's incredibly important to continuing your momentum and not taking you out of a life-threatening moment to stop and inspect some handgun bullets. Not quite as well implemented is the return of the Drain Demos, which now appear at the electrical substation and serve only to annoy you in the extremely gamey task of transformer activation. It was a section that felt a little archaic and the only part that felt out of step with the rest of my highly promising playthrough. The Drain Demos lacked any kind of intimidating presence or threat, but were very much the animation breaking attack they were unsatisfyingly designed to be. Having replayed the original Resident Evil 3 recently, it was a pleasant surprise to see that this isn't just a beat-for-beat remake, and that care and attention has been made to not only modernise, but spice things up with unexpected moments and enemies. Nothing exemplified this feeling more than in the Raccoon City sewers when I was greeted by the Hunter Gamma. Fans will remember that the Hunter Gamma was an enemy that featured previously on Resident Evil 3, but this time, instead of its anthropomorphic frog-like appearance, the creature now takes the shape of a 7-foot, hideous blobfish with legs. Watching one lurking around the corner and ready to swallow me whole reminded me that the remake loves to honour its roots but isn't afraid to sprout something new and truly disgusting from them. In many ways, Resident Evil 3 feels like more of the same, but when that same is the incredible Resident Evil 2 remake, it's hard to see this as a negative. With the inclusion of Nemesis and a greater emphasis on scale and maneuverability, Resident Evil 3 feels fresh enough to stand on its own and take that important, quick step for the series.